Hey, Disney fans, planners, and reluctant visitors. I'm Becky, and this is Touring Plans Teaches. This week, we've got a brand new focus area. We've already finished series on Genie Plus, as well as Walt Disney World resorts, and now you've asked us to move on to Walt Disney World touring strategies. And just like with our other series, we have to start with the very basics. So this week, we've got Walt Disney World Touring 101, and this is going to serve as your introduction to the 4 theme parks at Walt Disney World. If you're someone that has questions like, which park is the Hogwarts castle at? Spoiler alert, none of them. Gotta go to Universal for that. Or, what time is the 3 p.m. parade? Usually 3 p.m.-ish, depending on where you find a spot. This is the episode for you. And if you already know all of these basics, go ahead and send this video to someone that asks you these sorts of questions. I'm going to serve as your own VIP tour guide on a virtual tour of each of the 4 parks so we can look at their maps, see where you might want to go, and talk a little bit about some of the coolest attractions at each park. We're going to introduce the parks in the order that they opened, which means that we're going to start with Magic Kingdom. This is the classic Walt Disney World theme park. As you enter Magic Kingdom, you're going to step out onto Main Street, USA. Here there's a bunch of shopping, but there's also a few unique opportunities on Main Street. You can ride some vehicles, you can meet Mickey Mouse, and most importantly, you can get a haircut at the barbershop, which is reopening on July 31st, 2022. You can find me there that day for sure. On Main Street, you'll be able to see a lot of people, usually taking pictures with the castle in the background, shop for souvenirs, get candy, there's a few restaurants there. Usually, though, you're making your way towards the other lands, or you're making your way out of the park if you're on Main Street, USA. We're going to talk about the lands in a clockwise fashion for Magic Kingdom because that's the most sensical. So we're going to start with Adventureland, which is to your left as you're walking down Main Street. There you're going to find classic attractions like Jungle Cruise and Pirates of the Caribbean, as well as a spinner Magic Carpets of Aladdin and the classic show Enchanted Tiki Room. There's again a couple places to eat here, including the new table service restaurant Skipper's Canteen. This is all themed to sort of jungle-ish adventure types of places. After Adventureland, you come to Frontierland. Frontierland doesn't have very many attractions or shows, but it does have 2 of the biggest attractions in Magic Kingdom, Splash Mountain and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. These attract a lot of crowds, and they're kind of far back into the park, and so you've got a lot of crowds condensing in sort of a small corner of the park there. You also have Country Bear Jamboree, which is a show that's been open as long as the park has. Really classic, highly encourage everyone to see it at least once. Across the water from Frontierland is Tom Sawyer Island. This is a part of the park that most visitors typically ignore, which makes it a great place to go to on a really crowded day. There's a lot of shade here, not as many people. You can find a hidden corner and relax, catch your breath, and avoid all the lines for a little while. Moving on from Tom Sawyer Island and Frontierland, we come to Liberty Square. Liberty Square is another pretty small area of the park. It has Columbia Harbor House, which is a restaurant there, the Hall of Presidents, an entrance to the riverboat, and Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion is easily the most popular out of all of these and regularly has really high waits. As you exit Liberty Square, moving clockwise, you're going to come to Fantasyland, which takes up a very large portion of Magic Kingdom. And this is classic princesses and fairy tales. So you'll see It's a Small World here, as well as Peter Pan's Flight, the Carousel, Winnie the Pooh, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Little Mermaid. You'll have the opportunity to meet some princesses. There are several restaurants, including a restaurant inside Cinderella's castle. And we have New Fantasyland, which is the most recent expansion in Magic Kingdom. There we have a double-sized Dumbo. They expanded it when they built this new land, as well as some other attractions. Mad Tea Party is here if you want to spin in teacups. You can spend almost all day in Fantasyland alone, especially on crowded days. As you move out of Fantasyland, we come to Tomorrowland. Here you'll see the Speedway, Space Mountain, the Carousel of Progress, Buzz Lightyear, the People Mover, and soon, I should say soon, in quotation marks, Tron Light Cycle Run, which is the big new attraction that will be opening at Magic Kingdom. Hopefully sometime in the next year. It's been under construction for something like 5 years now. If you're at Magic Kingdom, you can't miss the lit up canopy at night. That brings us on the full circle tour of Magic Kingdom. A couple of things to know about entertainment and dining options here. Overall, counter service meals, those are your quick service, just order and pick it up type of food, at Magic Kingdom really aren't stellar. There aren't many standouts here. And table service restaurants are generally pretty expensive. You have quite a few character meals or more expensive options. So overall, food's going to be kind of a problem at the Magic Kingdom. Entertainment is widely varied. On Main Street USA, you can see the Dapper Dans singing. You can see the Main Street Philharmonic, which is a marching band. And then you have your afternoon parade, which is Festival of Fantasy. Typically, especially during more crowded times of the year, it runs at noon and 3 p.m. You'll mostly want to be able to watch that on Main Street for the classic views, but you can also catch it over in Frontierland as well. And then at night, you have Disney Enchantment, which is the fireworks and projection show on Cinderella Castle and Main Street. This gets really, really crowded. If you want a good spot, you have to get there early. But the good news is you can go pretty much anywhere on Main Street and be immersed in that action at the end of the night. So that's Magic Kingdom. You could easily spend 2 full days here and still not experience everything, but at least 1 full day of your Walt Disney World vacation should be dedicated to this park. Next, we're going to move on to Epcot, which was opened in the 1980s, obviously the best decade. But right now, Epcot is in the middle of a major transformation. They're renaming parts of the park, they're building lots of things, so that means it's in a bit of confusion. There's construction walls everywhere, it's harder to navigate, and some things just aren't available. That being said, Epcot's still a really unique part. There are 2 halves. One is the World Showcase, and the other is now called World Celebration, and I struggle to say that every time because to me it will always be Future World. But this is TouringPlans Teaches, so I'm going to teach you the right names, and for now, that's World Celebration. There are also 2 entrances. The main entrance takes you to World Celebration, and the International Gateway takes you to the World Showcase by the France Pavilion. We're going to start exploring the park from that main entrance, which is actually not the ideal way to do it if you want to save time, but we'll get to that in a future video. Another thing to know about Epcot is that it is the place where festivals happen. There's a joke in the Disney community about, is a festival happening at Epcot today? And the answer being always yes. You could build a website that just said yes and send people to it and it would be right something like 95% of the time. The last time I checked, I believe there were 17 days in a calendar year where there was not a festival at Epcot. You may be able to catch the Festival of the Arts there, or Flower and Garden Festival, or Food and Wine Festival, or the Festival of the Holidays. And when you add all of those together, they cover up pretty much the entire year. My favorite is Food and Wine Festival. I've never been to Festival of the Arts, but people say that's the one to catch if you need to pick one of them. So let's say we start our day at the main entrance. Straight ahead is the big golf ball, or Spaceship Earth, more appropriately. You don't want to go here first thing in the day. Again, we'll get to optimal touring strategies later, but it's hard to avoid, and it's especially beautiful at night. Now, thanks to the 50th anniversary, they've added beacons of light on Spaceship Earth, and they do beautiful light shows after the sun sets. Over to the left, if you're facing Spaceship Earth from the main entrance, are 3 attractions, including the newest attraction at Epcot, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. This attraction is so popular that it has a virtual queue right now, which means you can't just get in line, you have to have a boarding pass, you have to join a boarding group, and when that gets called, then you get to wait in line. Lucky you. So you can experience that, as well as Test Track, which is arguably the second most popular attraction at Epcot right now. It gets long lines, it closes frequently for weather-related issues, and unexpected downtime, so another kind of hard one to ride. And the third one on the left side is Mission Space. This one has a lot of motion sickness issues, claustrophobia, you're spinning. A lot of people avoid Mission Space. On the right side of Spaceship Earth, if we're facing it from the main entrance, are sort of the calmer pavilions of World Celebration. First is the Seas. This is where you can see very large aquariums, undersea exhibits, Turtle Talk with Crush is there, a great place to go in the middle of the afternoon and get out of the sun and enjoy the air conditioning and the shade. Next, you have the land. This is where you can see Living with the Land and take a boat tour through some hydroponic gardens, etc. Or ride Soarin', which is a really, really cool attraction where you're gliding through the air and seeing various sights from around the world. And finally, we have the Journey into Imagination Pavilion. There you have Journey into Imagination with Figment, as well as the Disney Pixar Short Film Festival. The film festival itself isn't very popular, but right next to it is a Mickey meet and greet. You don't have to watch the film festival in order to meet Mickey, and this Mickey meet and greet has the shortest lines of any of the 4 parks. So that's the one I suggest. It's a little trick, a little harder to find, but you can get there. So that covers World Celebration. Let's move on to World Showcase, which is my favorite part of Epcot. In World Showcase, you have a large lagoon, which now has some really ugly stuff in the middle of it to help with the nighttime entertainment. But around that lagoon, you have pavilions that represent countries around the world. Again, we can talk about them in sort of a clockwise fashion. You have Mexico, that's a large pyramid. It has an attraction inside of it, Grand Fiesta Tour, and it stars the 3 Caballeros. This is another good pavilion to go if you're hot and you need shade. Next comes Norway. Norway is really popular because of the Frozen Ever After attraction. If you went to Epcot when you were a kid, this was Maelstrom. But now it's frozen, and you can meet Anna and Elsa also in the Norway Pavilion. Next, we come to China, and Germany, and Italy. No real attractions here, but a lot of touring, a lot of good food. At the American Adventure Pavilion, you can hear the Voices of Liberty sing, and there's also a large stage on the lagoon here. This makes it a bad spot to see fireworks at night, but a good spot if you want to see concerts, especially as part of those festivals. If we keep going clockwise past the American Adventure Pavilion, you have Japan and Morocco and then France. France is home to the second newest attraction in Epcot, and that's Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. This one is no longer on virtual queue, but does have significant standby waits for most of the day. And to finish out the World Showcase Pavilion, we have the United Kingdom and Canada. Also around the World Showcase is where you're going to get many of the festival booths where you can buy food during festivals or see art, do other activities. This is the place to be. This is really the heart of Epcot, besides all the really cool attractions over in World Celebration. Once you're done with your day at Epcot, there is nighttime entertainment here called Harmonious. Harmonious is a little bit harder to watch than Enchantment at Magic Kingdom, and that's because it uses water screens and actual physical screens in the middle of the World Showcase Lagoon. In order to see it well, you really need to be on the path that leads you right into the World Showcase from World Celebration, or maybe in Italy or Japan. You can technically see it from anywhere around the lagoon, but those are the places that are going to give you the best views. So you'll see some projections, some movies, great music, lights, and fireworks every night at Epcot. Next up, we have Hollywood Studios, which used to be MGM Studios and was an actual functional filming location. They had an animation studio where they made Disney movies. They had a backlot. You could watch things being filmed. But the Hollywood Studios of today is very different. It's a lot of intellectual property and characters kind of mashed together. And as we talk about it and look at the map, you'll see why that is. Just like Magic Kingdom has Main Street USA, Hollywood Studios has Hollywood Boulevard. This is where you're going to do your shopping, and it's your entrance into the land. Immediately to the right of Hollywood Boulevard is Sunset Boulevard. These are where your real thrill rides are. So we have Tower of Terror at the very end. That drops you. It's the elevator drop ride. And you have Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith, which is the big roller coaster for this park. Also down this street, we have Beauty and the Beast, which is a long stage show, a really good break in the middle of the day if you're a Beauty and the Beast fan. There are 2 other main lands in Hollywood Studios and then a bunch of sort of secondary ones. Let's talk about the main ones first. And sort of immediately straight back when you enter Hollywood Studios is Toy Story Land. This is where all of the young families go first thing in the morning. So if you want to tour here optimally, you either have to beat them there or just wait until the end of the day when they're all tired and have gone home or to their resort. In Toy Story Land, the main attraction is Slinky Dog Dash. This has huge, huge lines every day, so you want to plan for that really well. There's also Alien Swirling Saucers and Toy Story Mania, as well as a dining location. A really fun land. To the left of this on the map is Galaxy's Edge. This is the planet of Batuu, where you're immersed in all things Star Wars. Here the main attraction is Rise of the Resistance. This is a state-of-the-art attraction, and because it's so cutting edge, it often crashes and experiences a lot of downtime. Thankfully, there's no longer a virtual queue for Rise of the Resistance. You just enter the standby line, or you can buy in an individual lightning lane for it. The other attraction in Galaxy's Edge is Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, where you can pilot the Millennium Falcon. Please don't crash it. A lot of characters roam this land. You can run into R2-D2 or Chewbacca or Kylo Ren, some stormtroopers. You can build your own lightsaber or your own droid. A lot of fun things to do. You can even visit Oga's Cantina and get a drink and be immersed in that world of Star Wars. A lot of people will spend the whole day here just being part of that Star Wars universe. The rest of Hollywood Studios is a bit more of a mixed bag. You have some Muppets areas, that's Grand Avenue. You have the newest attraction at Hollywood Studios, which is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. This is in the Chinese Theater at the end of Hollywood Boulevard. It used to be the Great Movie Ride. You have some other areas like Commissary Lane, where you have the ABC Commissary, and you have the Indiana Jones Stunt Show Spectacular. There's also a Frozen Sing-Along. There's a Disney Junior area. A really big mixed bag of all the things. One thing that we're still waiting on to reopen at Hollywood Studios is Fantasmic, which is the nighttime spectacular at this park. It's on Sunset Boulevard, sort of tucked behind that Beauty and the Beast stage show, and when it reopens, it's my favorite nighttime show. It's reopening hopefully soon with some brand new scenes to replace the Pocahontas scenes of the past, and that's the big draw at Hollywood Studios at nighttime. And finally, we've got Animal Kingdom, Walt Disney World's newest park, and it's still over 20 years old. Here, when you enter the park, you're going to enter to Discovery Island. This is where the big Tree of Life is at the center of the park. It serves as sort of the hub of this park. You'll also find some cool animal exhibits on Discovery Island. If we go clockwise around the park, like we have been for the others, the first park that we're going to come to on the left is Pandora. This is the world of Avatar, and here we have two main attractions. The Flight of Passage, which is where you can ride on a Banshee, very cool, very popular, or the Navi River Journey, which is a relaxing boat ride in the dark. If you like It's a Small World, it's kind of like that, except with weird pseudo-animals instead of creepy doll children. So, Navi River Journey. There's also a cool restaurant here called Satuli Canteen. As we move along the park, the next land that we come to is Africa. You can see Festival of the Lion King here, but most importantly, you can ride Kilimanjaro safaris. To me, this is the attraction that defines Animal Kingdom. You'll be able to drive through the safaris and see the animals roaming, anything from hippos and alligators to giraffes, elephants, zebras, lions, and even goats, I think. So any animals that you think you would be able to see on a safari are going to be on Kilimanjaro safaris. Highly recommend riding it at least 2 times on your visit to Animal Kingdom. From there, you can also take a train to Rafiki's Planet Watch and Conservation Station. There's a petting zoo back here. You can also see vets and nutritionists at work. You can learn more about conservation. A lot of fun things to do, but it does take a little train ride sort of outside of the main part of the park and therefore takes a little bit of extra time. In this area, you're also going to find some animal treks. So in Africa, you'll see Gorilla Falls. And as we move to Asia, the Maharaja Jungle Trek. The Gorilla Falls Trail has gorillas, as well as other things, and the Maharaja Jungle Trek in Asia has tigers. As you're exploring all of these areas, there's a cool program in Animal Kingdom called the Wilderness Explorers. If you've seen the movie Up, this is the troupe that Russell is a part of where he's earning badges. Your kids or you can participate and go and earn badges around Animal Kingdom. They'll learn a ton, and some of the best cast members run this program to teach everyone that visits Animal Kingdom more about the animals themselves. In Asia, in addition to that Maharaja Jungle Trek, you'll see a bird show and Expedition Everest. You can't miss Expedition Everest. It's the big mountain. This is the big roller coaster for Animal Kingdom. It goes forwards and backwards, so be prepared for that if you're not a roller coaster person. And finally, as we move around clockwise, we get to Dino-Rama, my least favorite land in probably any of the parks. This used to have an attraction called Primeval Whirl that has been torn down. Now you have a play area called the Boneyard, you have Dinosaur, the attraction, and you have Triceratops Spin, which is a spinner sort of like Dumbo. Kids really love the play yard here, and if you get a meal, a kid's meal specifically at the Restaurantosaurus, it comes in a pail with a shovel that then they can use at the Boneyard. So that's my one tip if you have small kids. It's sort of the only thing that makes Dino-Rama worth it. Here at nighttime at Animal Kingdom, there aren't really any shows. The main shows that you're going to see during the daytime are Festival of the Lion King, the new Nemo show that's indoors, has a brand new screen, I've heard good things, and Kite Tales, which is an inadvertently hilarious show where giant kites are pulled behind sea-doos in this big water arena, and they typically crash land places. Really fun to watch. But at nighttime, there's not much to do in Animal Kingdom. It usually shuts down pretty early. If you're there after dark, I recommend checking out Pandora, where the flora sort of lights up at night, or the beacons of magic on the Tree of Life itself. They light up at night too. It wasn't so bad. Basic introduction to all 4 parks. Hopefully not overwhelming yet. Join us again next week when we're going to start talking about touring strategies. How to avoid crowds, how to avoid big lines, where those are, and your best strategies so that you don't get frustrated. Thanks for joining me this week. We'll talk again soon.